The game that we'll be playing now is called Lovecraftesque, and it's a storytelling RPG that was created just a few years back. I think it's a Kickstarter first, and then later it got published because it was very successful. And it is one of those storytelling games where you set up kind of rules as a kind of training wheels to ensure that players tell a decent story. So it's not really going to tell the story for you, but it's going to hopefully inspire you to tell a good story, and it's going to give you tools how to structure your story.
Okay.
And it's called Lovecraftesque because it focuses on cosmic horror, and it focuses on the core narrative of many of Lovecraft's story without explicitly dealing with Lovecraft or the Cthulhu mythos. And that means that every story is about a main character who experiences something supernatural, and in the beginning pushes it away, rationalizes it away, until the point where the main character can no longer ignore what he or she is experiencing. And then it starts manifesting around that person, and they either go mad or are killed in some grandiose finale where the cosmic horror of it all reveals itself.
Are you spoiling the game right now?
This is how every story in the game unfolds.
Okay.
So this is not just all the stories have that structure, but then you have to decide in your game what are the things that are going to be experienced, how do they rationalize their way, and what is the cosmic horror. And of course, the cosmic horror can be many things, and if you want, you can invoke all these traditional Lovecraftian Cthulhu mythos things, but the point is actually to try not to do that. And there are a generic setup where you use kind of random character cards and random clue cards and location cards so you can tell any kind of story. But there are also scenarios which are, it's not fully fledged scenarios, but they give you a little bit more of a setting and a structure to basically locate the story in a specific setting. And there are 6 scenarios in the base set, and we're going to play one of them, called Echoes of Vulcan, which takes place in Pompeii in 79, on the day before that Vesuvius, the huge volcano, erupted and buried Pompeii and Herculaneum in lava and ashes.
And the game is called Lovecraftesque.
Lovecraftesque.
Okay.
So, but that is basically the whole frame for telling Lovecraft-like stories.
Yes.
Outside of the Cthulhu mythos.
Cool.
So we're not going to be talking about Lovecraft or the Cthulhu mythos in this stream at all, but we're going to try to see if we can come up with a cosmic horror story set in Pompeii anno 79 CE.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much what we got to go on.
Very cool.
We're going to be drawing a few cards. I should also say that there are rules for this game that we will not be following.
Well, there you go. So you might as well switch off your screen now, because
yeah, we're gonna do it our own way.
Yeah, but that's actually how we usually play games here on the Hopeless stream. That we find the pieces of the game that we enjoy, and then we hone down on those, or we drill down on those.
Yeah.
And so a lot of the time we will make house rules, and we will curb the mechanics a little bit so it better suits us and our playing style, and also so it hopefully is more easy to follow.
Yeah.
From people watching at home.
But the idea is, just to very briefly sketch it for you guys, is that you can play up to 5 people, and you each have a hand of cards, and there are different roles that alternate between the players, and in any given turn of the game, one player will be the narrator, so he will set a scene. Another player will be the witness, so she will be playing the main character in that scene. And the other players will have a role called whisperers. So they can introduce NPCs, or they can add like little thematic descriptions like, oh, I guess, the moon is full and the light falls in a way that makes it seem as if the character you're speaking to has almost this ethereal aura around them. So they inject these little pieces of info, and then when you have played out a scene, then everything switches. So there's a new narrator, there's a new witness, there are new whisperers, and you take turns. And then there are some rules set into motion. So in the beginning of the game, for example, the character cannot be physically hurt. The character cannot believe what it is that they are experiencing. And then as you progress through the game, these wheels fall off and new rules come into play.
Okay. Yeah.
It's all good, it's all fine, but first of all, we're only 2 people playing, and we're more interested in just exploring it as collaborative storytelling tool rather than following all the precise rules of the game. So it's more like an inspirational thing for us to try to tell a story. And if you watched the stream before, you may have seen our Desperation streams, Isobel and Dead House.
So, yeah, very storytelling-esque games.
Yes, based on cards as well.
So you're prompted to tell a story basically through cards.
Yes. So this is probably the closest to that as in terms of comparison. But then again, Desperation games are much more scripted than this game, I would say. At least that's what I think, because we haven't played it yet. It's the first.
So we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
What you're seeing down here, the cards, we have a setting, we have a main character, we have 4 other characters, and we have 4 locations. So we're gonna read through them to sort of get the lay of the land, and then we're gonna do, I think, a little thematic prologue, and then we're gonna start drawing some cards and setting up some scenes. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So if you guys are ready out there, we're gonna introduce our setting, our main character, and everything. So perhaps you'll introduce our setting.
Okay, let's see here. The Roman city of Pompeii on the southwestern coast of Italy. The year is 79 CE, at the height of the Roman Empire. During the festival of Augustalia, celebrating the late Emperor Augustus, the characters are merchants and wealthy citizens living in the city. So, does that mean that we are merchants and wealthy citizens?
We are going to get a main character in a second, but it seems that perhaps many of the other characters described are merchants, so it seems like we are part of a wealthy elite.
Yeah, okay.
And if I understand Pompeian society correctly, there was a pretty sharp divide between the elite and the non-elites. And research also points to a lot of tension in the city leading up to the events of the volcano erupting in the 60s, that is like 10 years or more before the volcano erupted. There were huge riots at a gladiatorial battle where I think almost like a football match where hooligans supporting different teams ended up fighting and people ended up dead, and there was unrest spreading to the city. So I think that we're part of a wealthy elite who may be perhaps more threatened by circumstance than we actually realize. Maybe things, money is flowing, wine is flowing, but there is an undercurrent of something. Unrest.
Yeah, okay.
And
interesting.
And we note again, it's the festival of Augustalia. So we are, which is a festival which was called, installed by the emperor himself in celebration of himself. And he now died quite a few years ago, I believe, but we still keep on celebrating the Augustalia. I'll have more to say, but let's move on. The main character who will be the one who experiences these events and that we're going to follow is called Umbricius Scaurus.
Umbricius.
And Umbricius is a Roman merchant who owns several garum workshops. So those are workshops that sell fish sauces.
Aha.
So we are a fish sauce merchant.
That's awesome.
Umbricius is a fish sauce merchant.
Oh, that's awesome.
He is grief-struck over the tragic death of his son. And in the wake of that, he has basically lost his faith in religion. and he has begun searching for signs of his son in the afterlife. So he like the standard tradition, religion cannot really fulfill his longing. So he's delving into other means of accessing the afterlife.
Okay, already I feel like there could be an opening to the beyond.
And he has a tension within himself because he considers himself a rational man, but at the same time, he's really hoping for proofs that the supernatural exists. So that's our friend Umbricius.
Tacitus says, yay, garum. I really wish I could taste the real Roman version of that stuff. Garum, is that fish sauce?
That's fish sauce. So, but we will be making it. We may not be able to taste it, but we'll try to convey.
Try the feeling of really delving deep into a fish sauce.
Yes.
Roman style. No, Pompeian style.
That's how a house smells, I guess.
Yes.
So now what we have here in front of us is basically 4 characters and 4 locations.
By the way,
is this turning into a Garum tangent?
Is that a Garum rabbit hole here? Staken says, fellow Garum fan here, lifelong dream to make some from scratch someday. Well, recipes will be available later in the stream, okay?
Yes.
We will not, I repeat, we will not go down a fish sauce rabbit hole. Not today.
Not today. But we are, of course, open to have visitors on stream.
Yes.
Who can maybe cook some garum in the background while we stream.
Yes, that would be lovely.
That would be really. There's not a lot of space for you, but we will try to make a setup. So what we have now, we have our garum merchant, and we have the Festival of Augustalia, and we have the loss of his son and his grief, which I already feel is already a good way of rationalizing some of the things, a way that he's going to experience. Because as it works, we're going to describe these things that he experienced or the scenes with him, and then we can also meta talk about what is actually happening and how does he rationalize these things away. And I think just because he's in that liminal space between life and death somehow, that he may be aware that he's seeing things that may not exist, because he's also a rational man.
What was his name again?
Umbricius.
Umbricius, a rational
I think
man.
from Latin umbra, meaning shadow.
Oh,
so I think
he
walks in the shadows.
Umbricius.
But now, before we go deeper into that,
yeah, I'm imagining the Umbricius and his
and his fish sauce,
his trials and tribulations, and his
I have this image of the Augustalia festival, like drunken debauchery in the streets of Pompeii. And Umbricius, he normally takes part himself. He's out drinking, cheering, he's roaming with the crowds. But this year,
but since his son died,
he is kind of walking. He's walking the streets, but it's like just a noise around him. He cannot feel the cheer. Maybe he stepped out to try to, enliven his spirits a little bit. Perhaps his wife has told him, go out and, just try to be merry for just one night, and maybe it'll help you. But he doesn't really connect with the festival. He just wanders in his own little world.
Well, sounds are muffled, His vision is like, he's got, what do you call it? Blinders on.
Tunnel vision.
Tunnel vision.
Yeah. And perhaps losing his way in the crowds, and people are bumping into him, and he's falling over, and the hem of his toga is all dirtied up because he stepped down into a sewage hole, and he's kind of not really there.
But do you think he would go out drinking in that state?
No, I don't think so. But I think that maybe...
No, but I'm not saying going drinking as like having a good time, but like finding some wine somewhere.
Right.
And going down to the harbor and like sitting there and contemplating,
That's I think that's possible. Yeah, I think that's absolutely possible. But I think before we start creating any scenes for him...
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
We're getting a little ahead, but it's fine. I think before we start making any scenes, but that's the thing, like we actually already have enough to start the storytelling.
Basically,
which is why we're not following rules.
We just need, a few prompts, and then we're off to the races.
Yeah, and then about like 2-hour warm-up where we talk about ancient Roman games on Avalon Hill.
That's the most important part. Get our juices flowing. Get our fish sauce.
No, but what we have in front of us here is actually 4 locations and 4 characters.
Okay.
And I think we should introduce them all before we start doing anything else.
Sure.
So, and I think we just take turns, randomly pick a character or location and read it out for the folks at home. And
so if I could take this one, for instance.
House of Scaurus, our main character is called Umbricius Scaurus.
So this is his house?
Yes.
Okay, at the House of Scaurus. A large home overlooking the sea. It has many rooms and a large basement, which may come into play later.
Basement.
But few servants. The walls and floors are decorated in mosaics of fish and the sea.
How fitting.
How fitting for a fish merchant.
Okay. So we have a basement, and it looks like this is a pretty luxurious home overlooking the sea with these beautiful tiles with fish.
Yeah, but also it does mention that there's not so many servants. So maybe it's usual for, the upper class to have a lot of servants. But Umbricius has chosen not to. Yeah. To surround himself.
Or servants have chosen not to work for Umbricius.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah, let's see.
What is wrong with Umbricius?
But there is actually... let me just see if there is a servant that I can introduce. There is not. So I'm just going to introduce someone else. I'm going to introduce Fortunata, a loyal lieutenant. So this is Scaurus's second in command and lifelong friend, Fortunata. Manages his garum workshops. So he's like the manager of the workshops. Oh, it's a she, sorry. She has been secretly going to the temples to find some sign of the afterlife to restore Scaurus's faith.
Okay.
So she has seen her lifelong friend being heartbroken. But what she's focusing on is not the loss of his son, but the loss of his faith. And she's going to the temples to find any kind of sign from the son that will bring Umbricius back to the faith.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so he does have a partner in crime, Fortunata.
Yeah.
And Tacitus says maybe there are slaves. Yes, I mean, that's of course part of, I think I read that, what was it? It's an outrageous number of people who were enslaved in the Roman Empire. It's just ridiculously high number. So people who weren't enslaved would surround themselves with enslaved people. And
so the servants would be slaves?
Yeah, but I think there can also be, without trying to say anything too exact here, I think that a lot of, there are gradations here, but one of the things was that the enslaved people were often not really even considered people, which is why you sometimes have these mind-boggling stories of someone laying secret plans in their house with slaves all around them. Okay. And just not really thinking that maybe they're picking up on what we're saying and telling it to someone else.
Okay.
Now, how did this get out?
I can't possibly
So it's
imagine.
true. There may be sort of an invisible enslaved presence anywhere.
Okay. So surrounded by shadows and slaves.
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Let's see what we have here.
Whatever you want to pick.
Well, let's the place where she goes, right? She goes to the temple of...
It just says temples. Okay. She's trying every temple.
It could perhaps be the temple of Venus.
Oh, yeah.
The city's major temple, richly appointed with murals and mosaics. A large statue of the goddess Venus is the center of worship, always busy with priests and worshippers.
Okay. So, and Venus, of course, being the goddess of love. So, and a very popular god throughout the Roman Empire, I believe.
Mainstream at this point?
Yeah, I think so. So I think nothing really special, but perhaps this is just where she goes. This is her favorite temple.
Sure.
And this is where she will go to inquire. And I imagine that some of the priests in the temple might be a little anxious about her insistence of, like, can we get some sign that this kid actually made it to the other side? Maybe not the right question to ask at the temple, because yeah. All right, so now to mix it up a little, instead of introducing a character, I'm going to introduce something that just... No, we're going to wait with that. I'm going to introduce a character. So I'm going to introduce Vettius Conviva.
No, just know that I'm going to have trouble with these names, but okay.
We're going to repeat them many times.
Good.
So Vettius has a tagline, which is, has foreseen a great doom, which we kind of know what's coming here.
Yeah.
Even without lighting up the incense. He is a priest of Augustus, and he is charged with organizing the temple feast. And he lives with his twin brother, Restitutus. Okay. He lives with his twin brother, Restitutus. So Vettius and Restitutus.
Okay, wow.
And they live in a large house, and they argue frequently. And they have seen many portents lately, which they cannot explain. And he is worried that something terrible is coming. And he's probably right.
He's probably right.
Now, there is this thing that it is the Augustalia. And with everything we said building up to this game, I don't want to be nitpicky, but I do think that the Augustalia is a festival that takes place in October, whereas Vesuvius exploded on the 24th of August.
Game over. we'll never.
So I think it's fine. We can talk about the Augustalia if we want, but what is actually a much more interesting timing, and we might start pivoting already, is that the Volcanalia, that is the festival of Vulcan, the god of fire, that was on the, I believe, 23rd or 24th of August, like the day before that Vesuvius erupted.
It's crazy.
So
that's insane.
So I think perhaps
not a coincidence. It cannot be.
No. So I'm just wondering if we should just change it outright.
Yeah, let's do it.
Or perhaps there are two festivals running. Perhaps there is the official Augustalia where you're worshiping the emperor, but perhaps it is perhaps they have moved the Emperor's Festival so it now happens at the same time as the Volcanalia Festival. And perhaps we're already seeing the contours of the wrath of the god and the land, that the people have started worshipping a mere man who threw himself up to be emperor and king and almost divine, instead of worshipping the god of fire who rumbles in the mountain right next to Pompeii. So perhaps we should keep both festivals.
So they're trying to sort of phase out the volcanic festivals to sort of emphasize the emperor.
In the arrogance of man, right? Like let's have the cult
swap out the emperor for the volcanic gods.
We'll just have a kind of cult of the big leader, and the gods are not happy with this.
Let me just say, Jeden says nickname Vetti.
We'll try to stick to Vetti.
Maybe they all have Scorsese mafia names, as they say.
Yeah, Conviva.
Classic mistake. Venus is also related to life's beauty, which he can't see right now because of his grief.
Ooh, that's a good point.
Good point.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Yeah, that may be also one of the things that why she's going to temple, because she's really trying to live in his spirits.
Yeah. Let's see here.
So we already introduced a new festival under the existing festival.
I'm gonna introduce a character here.
Yes.
And it's gonna be Octavius Quarto.
Ooh.
Devout but conflicted. Not unlike
this is very desperation-like.
Extremely desperation.
Where you would also have these two terms that go against each other.
Yeah.
So we just had before Vettius, he has just foreseen a great doom, but this one,
devout but conflicted. That is, sort of
but so he's faithful,
state.
but there's also something perhaps that cuts against the grain.
A wealthy art collector, an old friend of Scaurus, a member of the cult of Mithras. Behold, driven by an intense belief in the supernatural, has conflicting loyalties among his cult memberships. So he's devout in the Mithras cult.
But he does have some disputes with some of the other people in the cult.
Yeah, it's not easy being in the Mithras cult in general, I think.
No, I mean, I think the Mithras cult is one of those cults that we know very little about, and it's often portrayed as being a cult that was competing basically with Christianity in these early centuries of the Common Era. And not a lot is known about it, but it does seem to trace its origins back to back to Persia,
Okay.
where we also have a Mithras. And if we deep dive on it, we can go all the way back to the Vedas, which is the ancient Sanskrit texts of India, where we have a god called Mitra. And Mitra means friend or friendship. And the word Mithras, one of the possible meanings of it is friendship, or friendship in the idea of a pact or a covenant. And one of the signs that the followers of the Mithras cult would recognize each other was that they would shake their hand.
Okay.
So a handshake.
So a handshake is actually part of the Mithras.
Yes, it's part of the
lineage.
Mithras cult.
Linus cult
So
lineage.
I don't know when people started shaking their hands, but we know that in the Mithras cult, this was one of the signs of recognition between Mithras fellas. So when you go around out there shaking each other's hands,
Just be careful,
you
know.
may be performing an old Mithras ritual.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Tacitus says, Octavius Quarto, how bookish. In Rome, you find ancient churches built on top of Mithraeums.
Yes.
Okay.
At least one can be visited.
Okay.
And that leads me to actually pick up the Mithraeum card. Because there is a Mithraeum.
Yeah.
And one of the things about the Mithras cult was that they worshipped in underground chambers without windows.
Cool. Which is how you should worship.
It's pretty much how you should worship, right? So, and I'm already thinking now that since we have a basement in our house and not a lot of servants, what are we actually doing? Or what is Umbricius actually doing?
Could he already be sort of contemplating joining the Mithras cult?
Falling away from the true Roman guards, and especially the worship of the Emperor Augustus, right?
Yeah.
Because he was Augustus deified? Maybe he was.
I don't know.
Maybe someone will tell us in chat, but I think he was at least pretty much treated like a god.
Yeah.
The Mithraeum is a labyrinthine underground temple.
Cool.
It's created and used by the mysterious cult of Mithras.
Very cool.
Oppressively dark. Torches barely light the way.
I love it already.
It's covered in murals depicting bulls and crows. And if you have looked carefully at the map out there, and perhaps we can do an activate zoom.
You can't see it. Damn it. Yes, you still can't see it really. But what do we have here? In preparation of the Mithras death cult, we have a bull, of Mithras bull. Zoom end.
So we have a hummed bull right there. And part of the central Mithras cult ritual that is like the main representation, I think, within the Mithras cult is the motif of Mithras killing a bull.
Yeah.
He's stabbing the bull, blood is flowing out. And then these motifs, they are often combined with a banquet motif. So it seems that a bull would be sacrificed. And then the other side of the motif is Mithras banqueting with the sun, with the sun god. But all this symbolism is not very well known because we don't really have a lot of written evidence for the Mithras cult. It's mostly just these depictions.
But isn't there some artifacts and statues left behind from those things?
Yeah, we do have depictions of Mithras in various forms, and we have the mural paintings.
What about the underground occult caverns of the Mithra temple?
We have them, and they seem to be laid out to fit like maybe 30, 40 people a piece, and be set out like a place for banquets or I would even go as far as say orgies.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know what happened
Here we
down
go.
there. It's in the basement. There are no windows.
Yeah.
And you just kill the bull, and adrenaline and blood is flowing.
Yeah.
And in comes servants with huge trays full of luxurious food, grapes and wine and incense maybe, and then people banquet.
And what else?
And what else is part of banqueting in ancient underground Rome?
Yeah.
Labyrinthine temples. And so yeah, I think it's a cult.
Death cults.
It's really a cult. It probably has to do with regeneration, of killing the bull and the blood, regenerating the spirits, and perhaps also passage into the afterlife. And perhaps the Mithras cult is actually giving Umbricius more hope of reuniting with his son, because they may have a different take on this and may have this idea that there is a rebirth of the dead into another and better life.
So he's seeking different answers, unconventional answers.
Yes.
Tacitus says something about sacrificing a bull and the blood dripping down on the initiates.
Yes, that's very Mithras.
Augustus was deified posthumously.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like we are in the posthumous area. We're in the posthumous era when it comes to Augustus, because I can't remember when he died, but that was like a long time, I think, before 79, or at least, I don't know, a couple of decades or something. So I'm not, yeah. But then he was probably deified then upon his death. So yeah, so I think part of our story here is that we have a society which is turning its focus away from the real gods and starting worshipping man. And at the same time, we have the more personal story of Umbricius, who is losing faith in the real gods and is turning to this new upcoming mystery religion, which should also say is a religion that had initiation steps. So it has very much the organization of what we would call a cult today. Badass Mithras.
Death cult.
14 AD, someone says.
Okay.
That's when Augustus died, then I guess.
Is it your turn to...
Oh, yeah. No, I did the Mithraeum. So
you did the Mithraeum,
go
that's
ahead.
right. I'm gonna go down to the harbor here.
Go down to the harbor.
Several hours walk from the city, bustling with trade and the smell of fish. Boats come and go frequently. It is disdained by the city's upper crust. Okay, so it's like a...
Oh, so the elite doesn't go down to the harbor?
No. That's like frowned upon, I guess.
Right. I think also the Mithras cult is especially associated with non-elites. There was a lot of, in ancient Rome, if you were enslaved, you could buy your freedom. And a lot of these freed slaves and also soldiers, I believe, were sort of the core membership of the Mithras cult. It was not an elite cult per se.
Okay. But also that's interesting because Umbricius, yes, I just had to look up his name once again. Umbricius, he is belonging to this, the more elite part of the clientele of the city here. But he does also have his comings and goings down by the harbor, where he trades with all the fishmongers and so on to sort of get in. He buys bulk of fish that he can.
Perhaps that is where he has met.
That's how he's been introduced to this to these Mithras cult members.
Yes, I think so, because he kind of moves between different social spheres.
Yeah.
So maybe he also has a little more nuanced view of society, or at least he's begun having it now that he's experienced this personal tragedy. Which, I mean, he's clearly a changed man who is looking for a new foothold in life. Very interesting.
Very interesting indeed.
So now we have, I think, only one left, which is Julia Felix.
Okay.
And who is Julia? She is a demanding restaurateur. Okay,
great.
She's the one we make the garum for. So Julia is one of Scarus's clients, and she's quick to notice any changes in the quality of his products.
Wow.
She owns several food stalls and bakeries. She's pushy and always busy. She will not tolerate anyone getting in her way.
Okay, it sounds like
she's gonna be a tough cookie, right?
Tough cookie.
Especially now that maybe the quality of our fish sauce is going down a little.
We haven't been so present at the factory, or what do you call it, the workshop where we.
I mean, normally we would do tastings of every single jar of fish sauce.
Naturally.
But now we kind of just let it slip a little.
Because it's usually fine.
Yeah.
And we have other, things on our mind.
Yeah. So this is the lay of the land. We have Umbricius, and he's the fish merchant. He has his house. He is friends, or he's actually have a working relationship with Fortunata. She's not his wife, I think.
No, but a close friend, and they have worked together for a long time. She's
business associate.
She's managing it's not a factory. It's more like a workshop.
Yeah.
And she's managing the workers there.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. And
maybe she's also like the head chef almost for this sauce.
Yes, I guess so. She's perhaps taken on more and more of that responsibility. It could also be her who is dealing with customers like the pushy Julia Felix and her, at least now, when Umbricius is kind of not present mentally, at least, and right now not physically, I think. And she is trying to heal the scars in Umbricius by going to the temple. And Umbricius is actually moving in the other direction. He's made contact with people at the harbor who enter the Mithras cult. Perhaps, I don't know if he's already joined the meeting, or perhaps we'll wait with that.
I think he's heard the rumors, he's read the pamphlet,
but he hasn't given the handshake.
He hasn't given the handshake.
Right.
And I don't think what was her name?
Julia, the pushy.
No, not the pushy Fortunata.
Fortunata.
I don't think Fortunata knows about this.
No.
She doesn't know what he's actually doing at night, where he's going, and what his new interest entails.
No, I think so. There's probably also going to be a split in them, in their friendship, in their business, in many ways. And then I just need to remind myself, Octavius, he was a wealthy art collector and an old friend. And he's a member of the cult of Mithras.
Yeah,
okay.
Maybe that's how.
That's how he was introduced to it.
Yeah.
But there are more members down by the hammer. Okay, so he's an art collector, so he could also have interesting art. And then Vettius, who was the priest of Augustus, who is organizing the festival that's going on. So we can see the contours of like kind of allies and not so much allies.
Yeah. Jeden says he's doing the healing in the basement. Yeah, the Mithras basement. Did he lose a child? Yes, he has lost his son.
Yes.
Recently.
His only son. And as we start the story, he is walking the streets in a distraught state of grief, while the Augustalia festival is happening all around him. And maybe there are pockets of people who are trying to also celebrate Vulcan.
It seems that there are two tracks in this city. Like the people who are invested in the emperor, and maybe also the more elite members of the city, and then there are the people who are more down to earth, or more like the working man, who is more prone to maybe celebrate the Volcano, the gods of fire, and may also be more prone to be part of the Mithras death cult.
Yes, I think that's a good way to describe it. And before we do the first scene, I just want to add a little bit of historical atmosphere, because the volcanic eruption of Vesuvius on the very day that we're playing the game, I think it begins on that day and then it explodes really the day after or something. That has only one eyewitness writing about it. And that eyewitness was Plinius the Younger. And he was sitting in a city across the Bay of Naples, so maybe, 15, 20 miles away from Pompeii and Vesuvius. So he watched the volcano erupt from afar.
Now, what can you see from that distance?
A lot, as you will see when he starts writing his descriptions. Also, when I say 15, 20 miles, I may be wrong, but it's on the other side of the bay. He's at a decent distance, I think. And he is there with Plinius the Elder, who is his uncle. and who is a very famous author from the Roman Empire who wrote a gigantic work called the Naturalis Historiae, I believe, the Natural History, which is an encyclopedic work in I don't know how many volumes, which describes just everything between heaven and earth and beyond in the Roman Empire. And he was so curious when he started seeing smoke coming from the volcano that he was like, let's get into a boat and sail over there and investigate.
Very brave.
He was very interested in natural phenomena.
Cool.
And he actually wanted Plinius to go with him, but Plinius, he'd rather stay home and study. Good for him, because his uncle got over there and he was trying to help save some people who were stranded on the beach and were trying to get away from the volcano. And it was raining down with ash and stone. Like, people would actually tie pillows to their heads just to try to walk safely outdoors. And Plinius the Elder, probably also because he was elderly, he succumbed. I think, as far as we know, he succumbed from basically breathing the fumes of the
pyroclastic flows.
Yes, and he succumbed to that, and he was in his sick bed for just a day or something. I think he died the next morning. But of course, Plinius the Younger, writing about him, also writes about him sort of heroically, how he calmed the nerves of the people there. And even when the lava was coming flowing down the hill, he told them, well, it's just some farms that were set on fire by fleeting farmers. It's not too dangerous. And like, big lava stone was falling down from the sky. So what I want to do is I just want to read like a really short passage from Plinius the Younger's letter to Tacitus, who was one of the great historians of ancient Rome, and he writes the story about how he experienced the eruption of Vesuvius in the hope that Tacitus will put it into his history of ancient Rome, so Plinius the Younger can become immortalized. And that is pretty much what happens, I guess. So just here a few atmospheric words. Now the day begins, with a still hesitant and almost lazy dawn. All around us, buildings are shaken. We are in the open, but it is only a small area, and we are afraid, nay, certain, that there will be a collapse. We decided to leave the town, finally. A dazed crowd follows us, preferring our plan to their own. Their numbers are so large that they slow our departure and then sweep us along. We stopped once we had left the buildings behind us. Many strange things happened to us there, and we had much to fear. The carts that we had ordered brought were moving in opposite directions, though the ground was perfectly flat, and they wouldn't stay in place even with their wheels blocked by stones. In addition, it seemed as though the sea was being sucked backwards, as if it were being pushed back by the shaking of the land. Certainly, the shoreline moved outwards, and many sea creatures were left on dry sand. Behind us were frightening dark clouds, rent by lightning, twisted and hurled, opening to reveal huge figures of flame, like lightning, but bigger. And this is the beginning of the eruption seen from afar across the waters.
Powerful stuff.
As written by Plinius, and there you can see it. This is more or less what he sees. I think it's a pretty accurate simulation.
That's very cool.
So,
Tacitus has some praise for us.
Okay, we're gonna take that.
This is without a doubt the finest board game channel, board game Twitch channel. Thank you, Tacitus, and possibly the most learned. Thank you. Yeah. So thank you, Tacitus, for singing our praises.
Yes.
Always welcome.
Yes, you're welcome to sing praise. I should also say you're also very welcome to chip in as we now start the storytelling.
Yeah, so any suggestions or ideas or thoughts that pop up in your head, just please share them and we will see if it fits in this narrative.
We'll see where the story goes. Right now, we're going to expose our main character for some supernatural events that he's going to try to rationalize away until he can't.
Okay.
And what we're going to do is we're going to draw 3 cards. And we're going to look at them and we're going to choose one that we're going to enact. And we're going to choose one that we're going to remove from the game.
Okay.
And then we're going to repeat that. And then every card will be a little scene, observation, whatever we want to do with it. And I think in the interest of involving our audience, we should just briefly read through them. So,
Sure.
And then you can help us choose.
Yeah.
And if you don't help us choose, we just choose ourselves.
Yeah.
So do you just want to read
Sure.
one? And I mean, I haven't looked at this game, so I don't even know exactly how it works. So, but just give it a go.
Here comes specters, visions of something beyond. A bright light in the street outside at night, which vanishes after it passes by. Someone appears to be in pain and distress, but when met later, they and others deny it. Thick shadows pool. Moving through them feels like fighting through deep water. So that's a clue, this. For me, this is very abstract to read this. But
I think what we should focus on here is it has a title, which is Specters.
Yeah.
So this, if we play this card, we can do a spectral vision. And the 3 things that you just read are 3 examples of how it might play out. But these are just basically to, kickstart your imagination if you need something to kickstart. But I think in general, this is a card that allows us to do a scene with specters.
Okay. So these are examples of how a specter could manifest.
Exactly.
Okay, I see.
That's all. Then we have another one, which is called Spoor, which I think means clue or trace or something. I don't know.
How do you spell it?
It's very Danish. Spoor. Or it's very Dutch.
Okay.
Spoor. Anyway, I don't know that word. It could include prints or claw marks that do not match those of known wildlife, a trail of damage too large to be left by local animals, half-eaten food or droppings, eerie noises or strange smells. I'm already getting the feeling now that we should perhaps just half look at these suggestions, but actually focus more on the titles.
Sure.
So we can do something with a specter, or we can do something with a kind of where he finds a physical clue indicating something. And then finally we have, I think this is a special card.
This card is called Flashback. Play before an investigation chapter to take over as narrator. Set a scene in the past. Optionally, choose an alternate main character for this scene. The present-day main character must learn of what happened, for example, through a letter describing the scene, a recording of the scene, a vision or psychic message.
So basically, I think we can do a flashback scene either in his own life or in someone else's life.
Yeah.
Something that reveals something. So I think these 3 are all of them are interesting. I think something can come of it. I feel a flashback could be powerful, but not right now. It's too early.
It's too early.
You can't start with a flashback.
The flashback could be nice to reveal something like a twist or...
A little later, right?
A little later, yeah.
And I don't know about you, but between Spectre and Clue, I think Spectre is probably more interesting.
Spectre, I think, is nice to just be able to throw it in to have access to a ghost.
Yeah, also since he's walking around the streets looking for
and
signs.
we have to use it now.
Yeah, and then we have to kick one out. Because I'm thinking that maybe the story starts with him actually glimpsing or thinking that he's glimpsing his son in the crowds. Because also, we don't know anything about the circumstances of his death. And I'm thinking that it may actually be a disappearance.
The thing, the great thing about the disappearance is that it's that it keeps hope alive.
Yeah. And I mean, of course, there is the point that he's trying to find clues from the afterlife, but it can also maybe be him. Yeah, I don't know. Will it work if he's only because perhaps it's too important that he is dead and that he's really searching for these clues.
I think everyone knows that he's dead.
Yeah.
But Umbricius is keeping this little faint hope alive that maybe he will come back one day.
Yeah.
Because I think what happened was that the son drowned.
Right, because fishing.
And so they never recovered his body. They only recovered like a few his sandals that he was always wearing.
Yeah, or like the debris of the shipwreck boat.
Yeah, that he
came ashore, and no one climbed out of the waves.
Exactly.
Except perhaps one of the oarsmen who came back and told him the ship went down, and he's asking about his son, and he says that he doesn't know. He was on board, and suddenly he looked and he was no longer there. He was swept into the sea. I think that's nice because it creates this uncertainty. It's very likely that he's drowned.
Yeah, most likely.
Yeah,
most people will assume that he's drowned.
Yeah, he presumably drowned at sea. Perhaps we can have a flashback to the shipwreck later.
Yeah, let's keep that one. That's fine.
And then perhaps kick out the physical clue.
We don't know what it means, and
it's out.
It's not interesting.
It's gone. So we're gonna hang on to the flashback. So specters.
Yeah.
So what is happening? He's walking through the streets and he catches a glimpse.
Sure.
Someone who physically resembles his son.
Yeah, like he sees like the back of someone and he's like, that's gotta be my son. What is his son's name?
He's called Porcius.
Porcius, okay.
We're not going to remember it, but I'm going to put it here anyway.
So he sees the back of someone that resembles Porcius. It might well be Porcius. We don't know.
And you see him turning a corner. And we have to remember, this is early evening. The sun is setting. The streets are full of people. Many are drunk. And when you look down the alleyways, the side streets, you see unsavory behavior going on in the shadows. The city is also full of brothels and prostitutes and winemakers and merrymakers and thieves and robbers, and it's a thieves' den when you're outside the safety of the big Roman villas.
As soon as you get closer to the harbor, the smell starts to increase.
He sees him turn around the corner, and then he follows after. And this is the way leading down towards the harbor.
Yeah.
And when he turns, he doesn't see him anymore, but he can hear footsteps.
Yeah, because when he turns, it leads to a lot of stairs going down, and they're sort of occluding each other, so you can't really see more than one sets of stairs down.
Right.
But you can hear the tapping of.
There is an echo coming up, and he's following those steps down, and eventually he arrives at the harbor. He comes down where all the ships are, and it's late evening, so there's not so much activity down there. And he stands there, and at first he doesn't see anything. And it's all quiet. He can just hear like the noise of the city behind him, just faintly.
But he's also catching himself like, what did I actually see anyone? What am I doing here? There's no one here anymore. Was it really the footsteps I heard going down the stairs? You know, he's sort of catching himself like saying, am I losing my mind?
And just as he's about to give up the chase and thinking like, I'm chasing shadows here, he hears the sound of footsteps running back up the stairs behind him. And he turns, and again he just see the back of this little boy turning around the stairs, running up, and he tries to follow, but he can't, and he loses the trail. So
he's like kind of wondering, like, was this was it actually my son, and why did he run away? Why didn't he want to get, what is he hiding? What's up with my son? If it was really my son that I saw, what is it that he's hiding?
Another possibility could be that down in the quiet of the harbor, that he does not hear the footsteps running back up the stairs, but he hears them. He thinks he's lost them, and then suddenly he regains the sound. It's a little further away, and he follows them into a corridor, and suddenly he's in a back alley by the harbor in front of a closed door leading down into one of those warehouse basements. And he's just standing there.
And I think there is a little mark on the door. And he's seen that mark before. It's definitely some sort of occult symbol.
Yeah, it's the cross, but it's the cross like an X.
So so he has a decision now to make. He has to sort of answer the question, was it a figment of my imagination, or do I go through with following these footsteps? Do I believe in it?
He also feels that whatever it is leading him somewhere, and again, he's hoping for signs of his son, but he's also rationalizing in a way, of course, in the way that, maybe this kid is trying to tell me something, even if it's not my son. But I think that he feels that this is not just happenstance. Like he's starting to, like you do when you start connecting dots in your life, and suddenly things start make sense, even though they may be random, but they actually start making sense. Exactly like what we're doing right now when we're telling the story.
You see a pattern and you connect the dots.
Yeah.
And humans have this insane ability to find patterns in everything.
Yeah.
And create stories, basically.
But let's have 2 new cards.
Yeah.
And let's read one each. You want to start?
Yeah. Object d'art.
Oh, we have an art collector.
Yes. This could include a statue, sculpture, or painting, music, dance, or play, jewelry or mask, clock, instrument, or game. Clue suggestions. This is a clue, I guess. Clue suggestions: weird or forbidden style, depicts something bizarre, could not be human-made, designed for a non-human. Okay, so this is something that he can encounter. He can come across this somehow.
Yes, you can come across this strange object.
Yes. That's kind of interesting, yeah.
Yeah. Another possibility is a strange location, which is that we can suddenly shift the scene to a new and previously unseen place. Now, there is some rule technicalities here. They only come into play if you really follow along the rules. But suggestions here is like another dimension or time or parallel universe or something. I'm thinking now about what might have happened to the boy, even if he was alive. And I'm thinking a strange location, because we of course have this narrative in the back of our mind that the volcano is perhaps already now starting to send out little fumes of smoke. And I'm wondering whether the Volcanalia festival, whether these people who worship the god of fire, whether there's some ritual taking place inside the volcano. That could be some kind of weird space in there.
We have to discard one.
We have to discard one.
Okay. So I think we discard the object of art. Yeah. We go with the flashback.
Yeah.
But what I think is that he's reminded that he's seen the symbol before.
Right. Was that when he was at this first introductory meeting at the Mithras cult?
I think it was earlier.
It was before that.
I think it was on the side of the boat that his son was on.
Yeah.
The boat that shipwrecked, causing his son to potentially drown.
Uh-huh. So is this a symbol that is a stamp of a particular merchant who has this as his mark?
That's his assumption. He assumes that it must be a merchant's trademark, that he would stamp like all his boxes with this and all his ships and all
because
his...
then the doors down could be where the wares were kept.
Maybe, yeah. So he has seen this symbol before.
But that already means that there is a connection now between the ship that his son went out on and where he was led by this apparition or kid or whatever it was.
So he's being reminded of there's actually some connection here, that the symbol that he just took as sort of like this graffiti almost, like someone wanted to beautify their boat, so they gave it a little mark.
I see the interesting suggestions are coming.
Jeden says maybe he get to find an object where he can communicate with his dead son. Oh, like a painting. And
Tacitus says, is there a symbol of Mithras?
No, it's a symbol of Mithras, for instance, or a mystery cult experience. The dead son or it will emotionally manipulate him to act out certain things. Wow. A cult of dead children.
Yes,
oh my God.
That was what I was looking at.
Oh my God. Okay. So how do we...
Okay.
Where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? No.
But we got to implement the cult of death children.
We have to have it. Can we say, like, we know that the cult of Mithra, it revolves around bull sacrifices. But perhaps we're at a point where, because of the popularity of the cult of Augustus, which has taken over everything, these bull sacrifices are no longer enough to appease the gods of the volcano.
Yeah.
And the gods demand more.
Yeah.
And there has actually been going on, or perhaps there has been going on for a long time now, these child sacrifices in the volcano.
So people are actually starting to become very weary of letting their children play out at night.
Yes.
Because the children have been known to disappear.
And if Umbricius' son was aboard that boat with that mark, which perhaps has been associated, there is some connection here. Perhaps he's trying to tell him that, again, it gives him the hope that maybe his son did not drown, but of course also gives him the fear
that he's been taken somewhere.
That he's been taken somewhere. But maybe that leaves time for him to save him.
Because it is very puzzling that the boat captain survived. And we haven't seen signs of the boat, so we don't know if the boat has been taken somewhere else in an attempt to sort of obfuscate the truth.
Right.
Or if it has indeed...
Do we have a flashback now where we see what actually happened on that boat?
The flashback is that we see that we connect the dots, we connect the mark to the boat. But now the flashback is perhaps... Who were the people that he were going on the boat ride with? Who were the people who came to collect him in the morning? His friends that he was wanting to go boating with, go fishing with.
But
who were the other characters?
But perhaps he was working for his father. And he was... perhaps it was one of his first trips to sea. And he had just begged his father to want to go fishing, and his father was always, well, you know, we don't keep company with the people from the harbor. We don't keep company with the fishermen.
That's the thing.
But he was just plaguing him. Oh, can I go? And then finally, his father allowed him to go, but he went there and he kind of made sure that he knew exactly who was taking him, which is why he recognizes the mark, because he knew that it was that trader that he was going out with. And then he basically handed over the son to these people. And then he never saw him again.
And I wonder if his son was the only child aboard that boat.
Not necessarily. Or perhaps they sailed. Perhaps the only thing we know is this one person who swam back onto land and told about how the ship has been wrecked. But perhaps no remains of the shipwreck has been found.
No.
So this could also be a planted story.
And it was the only boat that had trouble that night. There's no other fishermen claiming to have been at rough seas or anything like that that night. So it's a little bit strange, that whole story.
Yeah. So perhaps looking at the mark, we we go back to some days before where he's handing over his son to the boat, and he sees the boat, or not the son to the boat. He's handing over his son, and he sees the boat leave shore and go, and he's standing there for a long time to make sure that they make it safe out there. And at one point, Fortunata comes and to him, it's like, where have you been? Julia, she's making trouble again. Like, she says that she needs a different brand of sauce, or that it didn't have enough salt in it, and we have to fix it. And he's he has to attend to business, and he turns his back, and he's going to blame himself for the rest of his life for turning his back and not following that boat out. But here, what we're seeing, because suddenly he is seeing himself standing at the shore and being pulled away by Fortunata and leaving, but it is suddenly as if his perspective just remains in his body, as if he was still standing there. And he sees the boat go out to sea, and he sees that it's meant to perhaps turn around the promontory where the fishing is, but he sees it's kind of continuing straight in and going around the volcano to the left, around in a different direction.
And where that there's nothing behind the volcano. There's really there's no people living there really. It's kind of like a deserted area.
It's not a good fishing area. There are too many shoals. It's kind of dangerous to sail there.
It's kind of dangerous, and there's a lot of rocks and caves, and it's not really a place where you want to go. So he's kind of, but he only sees this now.
He only sees it now because he's back keeping that vision. He's somehow making himself see what he didn't see back then. And he now knows that his son has been sailed around the volcano, and he do not see the boat go down. He keeps on watching it until it's out of view. And again, it strengthened this feeling that maybe, just maybe, his son is still alive.
And the thing is that he doesn't really know. He's still kind of, there is a voice in his head that's saying, are you sure that was the mark that was on the boat? Are you sure that it was a son you saw walking down the stairs? Are you sure that is what you would have seen if you haven't been dragged away?
Yeah, I mean, he's wishful thinking at this point, right? There is also this sense that for him to be reunited with his son, if his son is really dead, he will have to enter into the underworld.
Yeah. But now it's almost like now he has some clues to follow.
Yeah, and I think he just turns around and leaves that alley. I think he notes it, and perhaps now he is really eager to speak to someone and to find out what happens, who that merchant is, or he probably knows who the merchant is, but he wants to act on this assumption he has. And perhaps the strongest network he has at this point may be the people in the Mithras cult, because many of them are these sort of more low-level merchants in society. So if you want to know what's going on, perhaps you have to be in touch with them.
You probably have to start asking them and see if they know the whereabouts of this one merchant, and what was he doing on that night?
Yeah.
And and have they heard anything about that ship? Do they know anything more?
Yeah.
So he could sort of start, questioning the ranks of the Mithras cult to sort of find more clues.
Perhaps he needs to meet up with them somehow.
Yeah. Should we draw another card?
Yeah, let's do that. We'll draw two. And we have a strange location if we need it from before.
Still. A strange catch. What is wrong with the seas? The fish brought into the city are full of solid black stone. Fishermen tell of a great shadow the size of the entire bay passing beneath the water. A phantom copy of a ship that is already docked in the harbor sails in, but vanishes when it nears its duplicate. So these are potential scenarios that might have plagued the seas.
So it's something about the seas.
Yeah.
I have an interesting card here called a secret cult. And it actually has something about large symbols painted on doors.
Of
So I already have one then. But we do have a secret cult, something with the seas and a strange location.
But I kind of want to go full, in the name of the rose mode.
Yes.
And infiltrate the cult.
Yes. I also feel like the cult. So, but I think it must be the cult of Mithras, right?
Yeah.
Because we have to integrate that. We cannot invent a new cult.
No. It has to be the cult of Mithras, and which most of the merchants and fishermen and most of the fishermen and the fishmongers are part of the Mithras death cult.
Yeah. You call the death cult.
I think it feels good to say death cult. So I use every chance I get to say the word death cult.
That's
and
fair.
I think most cults should be death cults if they're worth their salt,
Yeah, I mean, they do sacrifice bulls at the very least. So should we just throw out the strange catch?
Yeah.
Because that's also very Cthulhuoid, I feel, with weird things in the sea.
Yeah, Lovecraftesque even.
And I think still the strange location is a nice trump, because if we want to do something really weird, we can do it.
Yeah.
So what does he do? He has a friend who is in the cult, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that is
the artist friend.
Yes, Octavius Quarto, member of the cult of Mithras, driven by an intense belief in the supernatural. His conflicting loyalties among his cult memberships. I don't exactly know what that means, but it could mean that maybe it's a subsection of the cult that feels that the bull sacrifice are not enough and that human sacrifices are required. I know I'm pushing the human sacrifice agenda.
But I think you're right. But it could also be that Octavius is actually the more conservative member of the cult.
Yeah.
But there's a new, child sacrificing part of the cult that is like more progressive, more,
they're more extreme.
The youngsters.
Yeah, but it's this new rebellious thing that wants to reform the movement from within.
And I think Octavius is part of the old guard of the cult. And I think if we could convince Octavius to sort of be a fly on the wall at some of these meetings, he could maybe give us, a pass into the cult and have us investigate.
But perhaps the secret cult scene, is us attending a meeting in the Mithraeum, in this labyrinthine underground chamber, bustling with all these people that we don't normally rub shoulders with. And we haven't fully attended a meeting before, right?
No, but Octavius is kind of like our way in.
Yeah.
After we went down the other night and saw the strange symbol on the door that reminded us of the boat and so on and so forth, the next day we immediately contacted Octavius and said, you gotta get me into one of these meetings.
Yeah.
I want to know what's going on.
Actually, not the next day, the same night. We were knocking on his door.
Same night, yeah. You gotta get me into one of these meetings. I need to know what's going on. And he's like, anything for you, my old friend. Just so you know, there is this group of cultists that are starting to sort of break away from the old ways. And so maybe keep an eye on them.
Perhaps because I think we have mentioned to Octavius that...
the progressive faction.
We have mentioned to Octavius who that merchant is who sailed out with our son and now had just fed us the story of a shipwreck that we find it very hard to believe after last night. And he says that he belongs to this
the progressive,
very radical faction. And some people are trying to limit their power, but they seem to be going rogue.
So it's the revolution within the death cult.
Yes.
Progressive cultists.
And we are now at a cult meeting where cultists are discussing what to do as a kind of counteraction to the Augustalia festival that's going on. They feel that the celebration of a mere human being as a god, as they see Augustus, is completely eroding the landscape of it's even eroding the gods that that the Mithras cult is objecting to, or what the Mithras cult believes in, they're not even up against the old Roman gods. They're up against the deification of a mere mortal. And they're discussing which show can we put on, what can we do to counter.
What is the most anti-human statement we can make?
Yeah, something that shows that humans are not the end-all, be-all of existence.
No. And humans are not special.
And the conservatives will say, well, I think that we should have the annual bull sacrifice a little earlier this year. Like maybe push it back a month or so.
Not enough.
And then we'll have it then. And I think that's important that we gather around it. But
yeah,
what was the guy who took our son out to sea?
Yeah, what was his name?
Find out. Let's find something we can pronounce. He is called Acilius.
Acilius. Yeah, it's like a snake's name.
Yes. So Acilius, he's claiming, these annual bull sacrifices.
What do they accomplish?
It's
Nothing.
Just old men getting drunk and telling old stories that we've heard a million times before.
No one cares about it. It's not really relevant anymore.
We need to show that only through death can there be resurrection. We need to sacrifice life with the intent of gaining new life. We need to move through death into new life. And what stronger statement could there be than taking the life of the young and transmuting it into that? I mean, they firmly believe that by sacrificing, they can make whoever they sacrifice come back. A savior to walk down from the mountain.
Yeah. And they're going to prove it.
They want to prove it.
Yeah.
Because what stronger message could they send during this stupid celebration of an old emperor than having a true miracle manifest during that festival?
So in their writings, in their new scriptures, it says that whoever you sacrifice to the volcano will be reborn from the volcano, and they will walk down from the mountain and give the city new life. And
someone from the faction says that, well, I have noticed in recent days that the volcano, there is more smoke erupting from it than usual. I mean, it always has like a bit of smoke and a bit of rumbling every now and then. But he says, like, I have felt it. Like, haven't you felt the tremors lately? It's building up to something, and we need to be part of that.
The moment has come.
Yes. So he's already seeing like a potential eruption. I mean, they are ready to eradicate the entire city, to reborn, to make a rebirth of this sun. And everyone is, of course, talking about, well, who should we sacrifice?
Who's going to do it? I mean, but I think there are some of the very progressive cult members are not afraid of going the distance here.
And
revolutionary cult activity.
Now that we're talking cults, and I'm starting to think a little bit like I'm going sort of this Manson track in my mind, that maybe the decision is to snatch a child from one of the elites. Because if in order for them to believe, they will have to prove, I mean, if it's just some unknown street urchin, no one's going to give a damn. But if they could actually kidnap one of the elite children and have them return as a prophet of Mythos, that could turn the entire elite.
But that, because no one cares if one of the working class kids are sacrificed. No one will even know. But if one of the elite children were sacrificed and then reborn, people will respect it, and they will see it as a true sign of divine intervention.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, this is the scene. This is what I think. Umbricius is just sitting there listening in on all this.
Yeah. So what we're iterating here, this is like the conversation that's going on.
This is what he's watching as they're sitting there and basically finding out what to do. And it seems that the Acilius, he's a strong speaker, and we can see that he's starting to win support. And of course, the old guard and especially Octavius, they're still sort of grumbling, but you can see that support is growing. And these names. Yeah. Umbricius, he is starting in his mind to get this idea, this feeling that maybe they've already chosen the child. And
how far are they in the planning here?
Yeah, and he is also not there as, he hasn't given the handshake. He's there as a friend of Octavius that's been introduced. So he is kind of in disguise, perhaps, or he's in the shadows.
I think they're all wearing these robes, and they are. Let's not forget, they are in the catacombs, labyrinthine catacombs underneath the city, where there's not a lot of light. You know, they're all wearing hooded robes. And so if you bring a friend, no one's really going to notice.
But at the same time, the moment that Acilius says, and the child that we need to choose need to be a child of the upper elite classes, and he looks around the room, and just for a moment longer than is comfortable, he stares right across the room into the eyes of Umbricius.
Yes.
And then he continues, as if
he recognized him, as if he knew, as if there was something.
As if he knows everything that's going on. And
again, did that actually happen? Or is it Umbricius' recollection or his interpretation of the situation?
He's not sure, but he's saying as they leave, he looked me in the eye when he talked about the child. And I think if we're seeing this from Acilius' perspective, perhaps he is also, if this has already been planned out, perhaps he chose, I mean, right now we're talking about plot in the background, but perhaps he specifically chose the son of Umbricius because he knew that Umbricius had been going to some preliminary meetings, was interested in joining the cult, and he wants some from the elite to join the cult and make the ultimate sacrifice.
Of course.
Which is, of course, a great honor because Umbricius' son is going to be a future savior.
Yeah, and also just having the elite join the cult brings legitimacy to the cult.
Yes. But it also is Umbricius. Umbricius feels like when he looked at him, he was almost challenging to say, if you want to join, you have to make the ultimate sacrifice.
And preparations have been made.
Preparations have now been made. And it's been a whole setup, basically. The cult has very knowingly, or this faction of the Mithras cult has very knowingly kidnapped Umbricius' child, and
allegedly.
Yes.
Right, so Umbricius thinks.
We don't know, but there may be a very horrible moment of revelation coming to Umbricius soon if he gets invited to the sacrifice.
And we've just witnessed a ceremony. No, it wasn't ceremony. It was more like a kind of a discussion inside the chambers of the Mithras cult between the new faction of progressive occultists.
Yes.
And they're proposing that the cult move into child sacrificing.
And Umbricius was down there, and he felt that Acilius was speaking directly to him when he was introducing these radical ideas, which were opposed by the old guard, but slowly eroded and seems to be more and more accepted. And he walks out with this strong feeling of unease and almost a feeling that he has been called upon to follow this to the bitter end. He is becoming more and more convinced that his son is alive and in danger of falling victim to this faction of the Mithras cult.
Yes, especially because he noticed that when Acilius was talking about sacrificing a child, preferably from the elite, that he was it's almost like he was looking at him when he said it.
Yeah.
So he has a strong feeling that this is connected somehow.
Right. Let's draw a couple of new cards and see where this goes.
Yeah. Let's see here.
We
have terrible portents. Yeah, some terrible omens. So that could be a thing. I'm not going to read the suggestions because I think it's more fun to...
So omens, I have here strange sensations. So that could be like, weird sounds or feelings or things you see. And so they seem to be a little bit similar. Terrible portents and strange sensations. And then, of course, we have the strange location as well.
Yeah.
And I am wondering now if we should have a scene where we kind of take stock of where we are. So maybe a scene where Umbricius, he goes to Fortunata and try to tell her what he wants to do, and she tries to convince him that he's losing his mind or something.
Yeah.
Or is there an attempt where he goes to the priest of Augustus? In his first idea is that in order to save his son, he comes up with this mad story and tries to convince the temple priest. And perhaps he brings along Fortunata. I just think we need a scene where he is trying to do the right thing, but then realizes that he'll have to do it himself.
We're sort of missing...
We have Vettius,
we have
who
Vettius.
is the priest of Augustus.
Oh yeah, that's right.
And he's basically... He's very conservative in saying he's part of the whole Augustalia festival.
Sure.
So maybe the first instinct is to saying, okay, I've delved too deep into this Mithras cult, and I thought that they were going to help me find answers, but now I see that they're plotting this terrible conspiracy, and he comes there and tries to warn the head priest of Augustus, trying to make them take action.
But I don't think he has direct contact with the head priest. Doesn't he have to bring Fortunata along?
Yeah, I think so. Perhaps he goes to Fortunata and talks about these things, and she says, I think we need to speak to the priest. She probably doesn't really believe him, but
she sees it as an opening to get him to go to the temple.
Yeah.
Finally.
Yeah.
But she doesn't really know what's up.
Let's do that. Let's not dwell too much on the cards.
No.
So, he comes home after this meeting and is very upset. And basically through the night, he's talking to Fortunata, telling her about what he's heard, and what he's seen, and what they're plotting.
And Fortunata thinks he kind of sounds like a madman, that he's lost his marbles.
Yes. And also she is not fond of this Mithras cult. She sees it as some kind of conspiracy by the lower classes to topple the rich from power.
Yeah.
Because
devil worshippers and
Yeah, I mean, she wants nothing really to do with them, and she's always discouraged Umbricius. But maybe she also sees an opportunity here, because if Umbricius can talk to the priest, and the priest can somehow help him, maybe that's also a way of getting Umbricius back into the fold. Now remember, Fortunata, of course, she's sad that he lost his son, but she is also in a time where people had many children and many children died, and she's actually more worried about those who survive and about Umbricius and him staying on the right track, because without Umbricius there is no business.
Sure.
Without business there is no managerial position for Fortunata. So I think there is various interests here that are overlapping.
Yeah, so she agrees to take him to the temple to meet Vettius Conviva.
Yes.
Because he's a high priest and he must know all things and he must be able to help.
And they arrive at a very inopportune time. First of all, it's early in the morning. They've been talking all through the night, and Umbricius has been like, when can we go? When can we go? And so at the very earliest they can go, they leave. And when they arrive, Vesuvius is actually really busy organizing this feast because it's going on.
Yeah.
And that same night, which is now, we are now in the early hours of the 24th of August, which is the day that Vesuvius exploded.
Yeah.
On that same night is going to be sort of the main festival event of the Augustalia. And they're really busy organizing it.
Like Stegen says, the garum must flow.
Yes.
Garum being, of course, fish sauce.
Fish sauce. The fish
which
sauce
is
must
the
flow.
main luxurious item in this town.
Which is the product that we're making.
Yeah.
So I think the whole scene is kind of very confusing. Actually, Vesuvius doesn't really have time to listen, but
doesn't really care.
He knows Fortunata, and he also wants to accommodate her a little bit. So Umbricius is talking about the Mithras cult and child sacrifice and the volcano and resurrection and they will come back to life, while Vesuvius is moving around, like moving papers around, and Fortunata is kind of trying to mediate and perhaps also at one point trying to get Umbricius to calm down.
I think she also realizes that Umbricius is way over his head, and he's kind of losing his mind. And she's a little bit embarrassed that she brought him here in front of her priest.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's a little embarrassing for her.
And maybe she also starting to see that maybe she also needs to start betting on another horse here.
Yeah.
Because the race may be run.
Yeah, I think maybe Umbricius is beyond help, you know.
And
sounds like a madman.
Yeah. But there is this whole lucrative business that he has that someone needs to take over at some point. And yeah.
Is she plotting to sort of get
well, I mean, I don't think it is.
Get the business out of his hands somehow.
I think this is really the time, at least, where
there may be an opening. Actually,
there may be an opening. So I don't know. It's probably not something that she can achieve right this moment. It's not like she's going to produce a contract.
But I think most of all, she's just embarrassed for bringing him to the temple, and she's also just worried that he's way beyond help, really.
Yeah. And in the end, Vesuvius actually dismisses him and says, like, look, we got more important things to take care of here than listening to you. But you know, come back after the festival and
come back when you have an actual what do you call it, priest emergency.
Yeah. And as they leave, he sort of pulls Fortunata aside and say, like, don't ever bring that madman back here.
Disgracing the church.
Disgracing the temple, and he's clearly fallen to the cult. He's a hopeless
I'm not sure
case.
We can help him.
He's lost. You gotta cut ties.
Yeah. Or make sure he makes a huge donation to the temple.
Yeah.
One of the two.
So now Fortunata is perhaps also in a position where she finds that she can either fall with Umbricius or she can try to cut him loose and save her own. So she might go home and start being really busy doctoring papers.
Yeah, or maybe she's also really, doctoring, copying recipes. Perhaps she's even, you know, filling up bottles with garum just to bring along her own personal stash.
Creating, a secondary stash.
Yeah.
Also because she knows that the garum brand could be tainted by this.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And Umbricius, he leaves and he feels that no one is taking him seriously. And I think this is the point in the story where he is balancing he doesn't know what's right or what's wrong anymore, or what's true or what's false. But
he knows that the only thing he knows, well, of course he doesn't know what's true or false, but he has, in the last couple of days, he's been bombarded with imagery and with these both concrete evidence, but also mystical visions. That his mind is like a one-track mind, also in a mix of grief and also just hasn't slept for a week, you know?
But this is perhaps also the point where he has to choose one of two realities, right? Does he want to believe everyone around him who tells him he's imagining things? Or does he want to believe what he's experiencing? And he has to choose the latter, right? He cannot really choose.
Laurie Ray says, I think she'll fall with him. Yeah. She'll definitely go down with this sinking ship, if she doesn't, copy some recipes and start her own garum shop.
But maybe, yeah, I mean, I think that's also interesting.
Or do we think that she actually is going to give him another chance and help him?
I mean, they have a long-standing relationship. They're business partners, and she's been coming a lot to the Temple of Venus. Perhaps she's been asking for a long time, because Umbricius, he hasn't had a wife since his earlier wife died. And perhaps Fortunata has been going to the temple to have Venus turn him towards her for a long time. Yeah. And now she feels that maybe she can save him, or just as he is trying to save his son, that if she helps him, she can... I
think she probably feels that if she helps him realize that his son is actually dead, then they can actually start to build something real.
Yeah, so I think that's a better idea. Thanks, Lorelei, because I think that she isn't so tough that she just cuts him off at this point. No.
But I think she's absolutely sure that his son is dead and that he's losing his mind. Yeah. So she wants to help him with that.
Right. So now she can now also be the one who fixes things practically for him, because now he can no longer really organize
anything. He's just
anything.
A mess. He's a mess.
He's really a mess, just walking around. So they walk out that door. Fortunata is scolded severely by Vettius for bringing him there, and she now knows that it's on her. Either she lets him go or she tries to follow through. But being, maybe she's secretly in love with him, I think, and she has been for a while, perhaps, that now is the chance. Great. So whether that was sensations or portents, it seemed more like, we'll say sensations, whatever. But in there, we're throwing them both out. We're using one and throwing the other out.
So now we need sort of middle of the road, middle of the story kind of beat where we make a decision on what the next action is going to be. Because we have all this circumstantial evidence, which may or may not be in nightmare-induced or fever-induced or lack of sleep-induced.
I think that Fortunata, after listening to Umbricius for so long, that she actually contacts Octavius, who introduced the Mithras cult to Umbricius, and ask about these things. And he tells him, it's true, there is actually this faction, but it's they're never serious. They're never going to follow through. But it's just something they say to be heard and to be radical, and it's crazy. But he may be able to find out information of where they are meeting.
Yeah, because they're meeting.
They're planning something.
Unofficial location that is not sanctioned by the official part of the Mithras cult. Yeah, they have their own clandestine meeting place.
And before we decide what that is, perhaps you draw two cards.
Yeah.
And then try to see if we can figure out where it is.
An even more clandestine place than the labyrinthine crypts of the Mithras temple. A frightful beast. So some indication of a beast. An animal.
Okay.
Perhaps an unnatural creature.
This one says multi-layered horror. And this is something that can be used to add new information about some kind of horrible being. Okay. Or add new insight to the horror that he is looking at. So I don't know. And a frightful beast? I mean, this sounds like we have been warming up to the strange location, doesn't it? And the strange location is where they are meeting.
Yeah, but how does he get? How does he learn about that location?
I think this is Fortunata on his behalf, inquiring with first Octavius about this faction, And then, and I think this whole plot of her getting that information is not so interesting in terms of making a scene out of it. I think the more interesting thing is that through various channels, and because she's a very able woman, she basically controls this whole business empire. And perhaps Umbricius has always been, he's more like a connoisseur. He knows exactly how the garum should taste. He'll go out and he'll make these individual tastings of all the different vats of garum sauce. But he's not really very good with numbers and business deals. And so she maybe is that very practical, able woman.
And now, after having heard his story, maybe she also now actually starts to recall that there has been a lot of shipments made out to a certain location in the last couple of years, in a couple of days, because one of the fish merchants, I think, when she goes to the harbor to buy fish,
yeah,
she's learned that there's one of the fish merchants, what is it called?
Acilius.
Acilius. He has been sending fish out and supplies to some of the caves out near the bottom of the volcano.
Exactly where that ship sailed left instead of right in this vision that Umbricius had.
So she as late as this morning, she was down at the harbor to buy new supplies. And once again, she noticed this weird behavior.
This boat going out there.
Yeah.
Just.
And she's thinking, well, it can't be that it's going the same direction where Umbricius saw in his weird fever dream.
And is she also picking up the information, you think, that this is a boat belonging to Acilius, and talking with Octavius, learning that he's in the Mithra cult?
I don't know if she actually believes that there are that whatever Umbricius is saying is actually true,
right.
But I think she has now gotten a strong sense that there's something up.
But I'm just thinking, if she wants to once and for all prove to Umbricius that his son is dead, perhaps it's this thing you do with, what do you call that? Not cognitive theory, but this kind of therapy where you have to put people through something to relive.
Gestalt.
So, kind of, is that? Yeah, I'm not sure.
Know,
I don't think that is it. But clearly we haven't been in enough therapy.
Not enough therapy.
So no, but that.
Please suggest therapy sessions in chat.
It's some cognitive behavioral theory or something, right? Where
favorite therapy.
She needs to get him on that same kind of boat that his son went out with.
Yeah.
And
very traumatizing type of therapy.
Yeah, but to sail that, but she also knows that they will never get accepted on board. So perhaps they have to go as blind passengers. They have to sneak aboard. It's still, I don't know, perhaps it's still early morning. The ships haven't left the harbor, and they have to sneak aboard one of these boats that belongs to this merchant.
Yeah.
That she does not know about necessarily the connection to the
No, but
Mithras
the cool thing about Fortunata is that she knows all the ships at the harbor. She knows all the merchants and the different comings and goings. So sneaking onto a ship is not a problem for Fortunata.
No.
She knows exactly when it leaves, who is the captain, who is the first mate, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, and she can talk to someone and say, look, we just need to go and inspect those barrels.
Yeah.
And then suddenly they never leave again.
Yeah, sure. So she has a way of getting Umbricius?
Yeah.
Aboard a ship heading that way.
And she with him, right?
Yeah, she's with him, yeah.
So they are hunking down in the storage of the ship.
Jens says she's a catch. I think all the puns should be fish puns from now on. Fishing puns. She got her hooks in him, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, let's try to see if we can come up with more fish puns.
So they are now. It's early in the morning. The sun hasn't risen yet. They're hiding behind some barrels on a vessel headed for the caves underneath the volcano.
Yes, and it's one of Vasilius's vessels.
Yeah, it's one of Vasilius' vessels that he's been sending routinely. The last couple of days, he's routinely been sending ships to this destination where no one would normally go.
Yeah.
And so now they're on a real trip to investigate.
They're on a real trip to investigate, and they're out at sea, and there are also very few other people aboard the ship. It's like it's very sort of understaffed. It doesn't look like a proper expedition. Actually, there's not a lot of barrels or stuff in the storage, or a lot of it is not actually food items. Like there are these chests full of like cloths and candles even? And yeah, and lock chests and things. So it doesn't really look like a merchant operation.
Now, I also think that during this trip, and this is where the strange location comes in. During this trip, this trip, a heavy fog suddenly appears, and all of a sudden they are just sailing completely peacefully, completely slowly through this thick, moldy smelling fog. Yeah. And it seems like it's almost as if time and space cease to be. And all the few crew members of the ship, they all slowly but surely, they walk into the stern of the boat, I think what it's called, and they all stand there on a row, all four of them, like statues, slowly just facing the fog, enveloped in fog. And who knows who's actually piloting the boat at this point.
And there is this sort of deep rumbling. There is this sort of deep sensation that's going through the boat. The waters are perfectly still, but there is just this sense of a vibration, like it's some deep preternatural sound that is vibrating, as if something was sounding from below the waters, like the water itself is trembling.
And the trembling leads to this feeling that it goes from having been crushing up against the waves, becomes trembling, becomes almost just like flying almost. It's almost like you're flying atop a heavy fog. And there's no sounds. All sounds disappear. The sounds of the sounds of the water crashing against the boat slowly evaporates, and it's just like this eerie silence. You float through fog.
And at one point, as they're floating in this fog, it's as if the sound starts to change. Suddenly there is this echoey quality, like you can hear just the lapping of the waves echoing back and forth around the ship, and suddenly it becomes very cold and it becomes very clammy, and the fog is giving away to a dark space, sailing somehow in a channel underneath caverns, lit by torches set against the cave walls. And how someone could steer into such a small cave through that fog
without actually piloting the ship
is completely mysterious. This fog is almost as if it was sailing through a portal, and now they're underground, and the walls of the cave are just trembling, and there is this sound that is resonating through the caves, almost like a very distant choir singing.
And you wonder how the boat can manage to not scrape up against the very sharp edges of the walls, being only a few centimeters away from it on both sides. And And as they come through the cave system, which feels like forever it goes and goes, they come out, they see this beam of light coming from way, way, way up above. They enter this huge cavern, huge opening inside the cliff cave, or what do you want to call it. And there's one beam of natural light, moonlight, streaming down from way up above, as if an open window in a church almost. And at the very other end of this open cavernous space that they've entered, almost like church-like space, there's a small coastline with 20 or so robed figures standing, awaiting the boat, waiting to greet the boat.
On a small rock outcropping into the sea. And trying to imagine where they might be. Fortunata, she is stricken with horror. She's completely white-faced, stricken with horror, and she's spending all her power just to keep a hold of herself. But it is as if Umbricius, he has somehow moved beyond already. He's just accepting now. He's basically just seeing the fulfillment of all these sensations that he's had ever since his son disappeared at sea.
Yeah. The notion that he had that something was up has seemed to be true. It seems to be true.
And the boat lands, and the crew members, they basically leave all the usual cargo that they were supposed to bring, and all they bring are these large chests that are being carried up and are being received. And Fortunata and Umbricius are still hiding in the boat, and they see this whole sort of snake of robed figures carrying these huge chests, moving up these spiral stairs that are cut into the mountain. And as they look up, it's impossible to describe, but above them, through the window, what they are seeing is not a floor, but a ceiling of molten lava above them, as if it was suspended, as if gravity did not work in this place. They're almost like in a small bubble underneath the volcano.
And they see that the boxes that are being carried up one by one by all these hooded figures seems to be a huge collection of them. Around there's some anywhere between 20 to 40 boxes. And you sort of wonder, like, what is this?
Yes.
What do they contain? What are they going to use those boxes for? So I wonder if there is a way for Umbricius and for Fortunata to get off the ship to further investigate.
I think they have to wait until the snake of people have moved up, and then they have to get out of the boat. And Fortunata, now the tables have turned. Fortunata is like, look, we gotta go back. And Umbricius says there is no way back.
How are you going to do that?
We can't. Like, and he's starting talking mad. Like, but didn't you see? We traveled through the portal of fog. We're in the space outside spaces. There is no turning back. Yeah. And Fortunata's mind is also beginning to tremble, and is fighting against the things that Umbricius was fighting against earlier. Fortunata and Umbricius have followed Acilius and the radical faction of the Mithras cult deep into the volcano. And they have carried up all these boxes that were on the ship and left all the foodstuffs behind that they were supposed to transport, or that people thought they were transporting. And now
Umbricius and Fortunata are still hiding inside the boat.
But now they are starting to, I think, climb the stairs, following.
Yeah, they want to come up. They want to find out what's in the boxes that have been carried up,
and where these people are going. And so as they move silently, and again, it's Umbricius. He almost cannot contain himself, and Fortunato have to pull him back because he's almost about to blow their cover all the time by just pressing ahead, and she tries to hold him back, but he's completely driven to follow these people. And as they come up these winding squares, and they turn around, spiraling on the stairs, and at one point the stairs open into a chamber of such gigantic proportions that just the sheer size of it can make you lose your mind. It is that big. It is huge. You have to imagine it is basically the entirety, as if someone had scooped up a gigantic chamber inside the volcano.
And that's also where the boxes are stored, at one end of this huge cavity almost.
And the Mithras cult members, they stand on kind of it's like a ledge. And then from that ledge, there is a bridge, which almost impossibly suspended across the lava, that leads into the dead center of this gigantic cave. And it's so far away that just from the hazy heat that rises from the lava underneath, you almost cannot see the end of this rock bridge that leads out into the middle of the volcano.
And how it's supported is anyone's guess. It's anyone's guess.
Yeah.
So they make their way up towards where the cult members are gathered, where the boxes are stored.
There's a box between every two cult members.
Yeah. And slowly you see one of the cult members bring forth a small, it's almost like one of these incense burners that the Catholic Church would have. But it's not incense, it's a bell. As he stands in front of the boxes, he rings the bell. Slowly, doom, doom, doom. And you see slowly, one after another, the boxes open. And you realize this is not a regular box, these are almost like coffins.
And also, they are opening just by the cult members standing next to them. No one is touching them. They're opening by themselves, as if magically.
And out of the first box, you see a tiny, scrawny figure, a silhouette almost. The next box, the same, a little chubbier perhaps, but a tiny, freaky, small silhouette. And another one, and another one. One tinier than the next, one more feeble than the other, one more crooked than the next.
These are tiny humanoid silhouettes of malnourished, underfed, overworked children.
And they seem to be in a daze, responding and focusing, reacting only to the bell being rung. So as the bell keeps ringing, more and more children rise from their coffins.
They stand in their coffins just like you'd imagine a child standing in a wooden basin filled with water, ready to have their morning bath. They just stand there like statues, staring into nowhere across this gigantic lava lake in front of them.
And there's perhaps 30, 40 children here. What is his name?
Acilius.
Yeah, no, I mean our friend
Umbricius.
Umbricius feels that he recognizes them as some of the children from the town. Like he's seen, I think he swears that he's seen
some
this.
of those kids have been running errands for him. Some of those have been carrying his crates.
Yeah, he swear he's seen it before.
But they're all harbor kids.
Yeah.
There are too many for him to see exactly, and he's of course desperately trying to see if his own son Porcius is in there.
Yeah, of course.
But it's so distant and it's so hazy because of the heat. But he do recognize a few faces, and as he's looking intently, Acilius the high priest of the Mithras cult faction steps forth. And he starts to speak in a foreign tongue, in a strange language that Umbricius and Fortunata has never heard before.
But it seems to be an aggressive statement, a statement of much power and nefariousness.
And the cave is so large that it doesn't echo. The voice is just carried across the cave, but it doesn't even reach the opposite cave wall. It dies down into the lava and is muffled. And then, once again, he stands at the beginning of the stone bridge that leads deep, deep into the lava sea. And he lifts up this tiny bell and rings it just once. Ding, ding.
And as soon as the bell has rung out, the children start marching. Not fast, they're not going fast, but they're heading in one and same direction. They're heading towards the bridge. Slowly they make their way there. Just, they're walking without even looking where they're going.
And the ledge is not very wide. You have to be very careful how you step. And they're not even looking down or checking their movements. And they walk as if fully coordinated between each other, weaving in and out of each other, slowly lining up, forming this train of human bodies marching out across the stone bridge.
And as Umbrius sees this, he feels like, wait a minute, if they're walking over that bridge, someone's got to stop them. I mean, there's only one. This bridge leads into the middle of the. It leads across the lava, but it stops in the middle. So if you were to walk this bridge, you will most certainly fall into the lava when you reach the end. And so I have to stop them. Not only do I have to stop them, I have to figure out if Porcius is in between those kids. Is he one of them? I don't know. I haven't.
No sooner has the last kid in this long snake of maybe 30, 40 children entered onto the bridge when Umbricius tears himself away from Fortunata, who screams at him to stop, but he tears himself loose and he runs across the ledge, pushing left and right, and he just hears the scream of someone that he pushes on the shoulder, who falls over and falls into the lava and just dies horribly upon impact with this molten stone. And he makes his way across, and he starts running up through that stone bridge after the children. And at the entrance to the stone bridge, Acilius just stands there, still with his bell in his hand. He doesn't even act. He doesn't try to stop him.
It's almost like Acilius knew he would try to interfere, but Acilius was so confident in his transfixion of these children that he knows that there's no stopping this ritual. Once the ritual begins, it cannot be stopped. The spell is too strong.
And when Umbricius reaches the last kid in the snake, like the first one that he gets to, he kind of takes him by the shoulders and turns him around and looks in his face, and he doesn't recognize the kid, and the kid doesn't recognize him, but just stares at him with these dead blank eyes, and then just with a power that seems almost impossible for such a little child, just turns around and pulls himself loose from his grip and just continues walking.
There is no stopping this train of children. Death train.
And Umbricius start moving through this group of children, like pushing them aside as much as he can, moving in between them, around them, turning around every now and looking in their face, shouting out, calling out the name of Porcius as he makes his way across the bridge further and further out. And all he hears in the distance are the desperate screams of Fortunata and the renewed ringing of the bell of Hesilius.
And I think already now the first children to enter the bridge have started to reach the very end of the bridge. So a few steps more, and they're gonna tumble over. They're gonna tumble into what must be certain death, into the molten lava underneath.
And when at this point, Umbricius is almost at the end of the chain of children, and as you see the chain move towards the edge of the bridge, he stops, waiting for them to turn or to make a new formation on the little outcropping that is there. But what he sees is just the first kid continues walking as if on air, and then drops deep into the bubbling sea of lava below. One after another.
And Porcius is nowhere to be found.
He's looking, he's searching, he's screaming. Where is he?
Could Porcius have been one of the kids? Could he have been the first kid to go over?
Maybe. And Umbricius is tearing at the children. He's checking them. He's looking into their faces, and he's screaming the name of Porcius.
He's trying to reason with them.
And child after child walks in while he's begging them to stop, telling them it's wrong, telling them to wake up, telling them that they're in a dream, that they must wake up. And one after the other plunges until there is only one child left, walking towards Umbricius, and Umbricius is now between that child and the lava sea behind him.
Sorry. This is too good. But could it be?
Could it be?
Could it be Porcius?
Could he have missed him?
Could he have missed him on the first, in his haste to reach the children before they got to the bridge? He had overlooked one child. And
we will probably never know whether it was Porcius or not. But in that moment, Umbricius sees, just like he saw the back of Porcius running through those narrow alleys just last night and following him down to the harbor, beginning this whole ordeal, he sees, by truth or by fancy, his son's features in the face of the child walking towards him, and he opens his arms to embrace him and calls out to him, Porcius.
But Porcius, or what appears to, for Umbricius appears to be Porcius, swiftly brushes him aside and continues on walking as if he hadn't been there to begin with, as if he's never seen him before in his life.
And for a moment, Umbricius stands on that ledge and looks down and looks back at the bridge, and now sees Fortunata in the distance running across that bridge, screaming. But suddenly, a dead silence falls upon the room. The bell stops ringing. Umbricius is standing there. The only movement now is Fortunata running across the bridge, but there is no echo because the cave is so vast. So it is as if she's just silently running in a muted reality towards him, and she's still very distant. There is no sound. Everything is still. Time is frozen. And then we hear just like a deep gurgling. Suddenly, somewhere in the distance, a huge bubble of air rises up from the lava in a glowing ball of flame and explodes, throwing out sparks of lava left and right. First one, then a second.
It's almost as if the lava, upon digesting these human children, has starting to regurgitate somehow, or transform the bodies into a new kind of mass, a flaming, hot, molten mass.
And every lava bubble that bursts upon that sea is a tiny scream escaping the molten sea below.
And it seems as though the energy contained within the souls of these children has been now transformed into pure, bursting, flaming plasma that it just spews out of this volcano, turning into pyroclastic flows that darken the sky completely. The only light now coming from within the volcano. The whole surrounding area completely dressed in black shadow from these dark black clouds.
And Fortunata is running across that narrow stone bridge, and she sees in front of her a gap starting to form between the stones, like lava running across as if cutting her off. And she jumps over that trickle of lava, and as she lands on the other side and looks over her shoulder, she sees that the bridge behind her is gone. And she also sees Acilius standing there in the distance with his bell ringing, but behind him she sees panic as robed figures start scrambling for the stairs back into the volcano.
Many of the rope figures have already been caught up in the new lava streams that are forming. Many of them are cut off from the others, just on a small deserted island surrounded by lava.
And they're starting to fight between each other because there's not room for all of them on these little ledges that they've been caught on.
And the lava that spews out of new orifices, completely at random. People are getting struck in the face by molten plasma,
And finally, Fortunata makes it to the center of the cave, and she stands there and she embraces Umbricius on this tiny little piece of rock that's left. And at that moment, the whole earth starts to tremble, and big sheets of rock from the wall starts collapsing, like entire mountainsides falling into the molten, bobbling sea of lava, screaming with the voices of hundreds of children, as if they were encased within these bubbles of molten rock that is being released and bubbling up from below.
Total carnage.
And suddenly, as they stand there and the rock that they're on, this little island of stone, starts sinking into the lava, and they hold each other and they look up and they see the ceiling being blown off, the pressure finally relieving the mountain of its top. And just for a moment, they see the starry sky of the night. And then they go down, the lava comes up, and the eruption bursts through the top of the volcano.
And I think not only does the lava spew forth, but there is an eerie spectral vision of all these souls marching almost with the lava down to enact some sort of vengeance upon the town and its citizens that allowed this to happen.
One of the things that Plinius the Younger sees from across the bay, but he never wrote in his letter to Tacitus because he was afraid that Tacitus would deem him a madman, was that one vision of the smoke forming across the volcano, this gigantic figure forming, a human body entwined with a snake all the way around its body, and the head of a lion, wings on its back, standing there, the cosmic god of the Mithra cult. Hundreds and hundreds meter tall, formed out of the smoke of the volcano, rising above the town with its jaws open, and the entire regurgitation of time eating away at the universe as from its feet the sea of lava flows over the cities and buries Pompeii and Herculaneum and everything else.
Beautiful. Laurie, buried in lava, seeing the starry sky above. What an end, indeed. What an end.
And now, even though Plinius the Younger didn't write about this, and even though he didn't write about all the sightings in the days and the years after of tiny little feet, footprints in the ashes among the ruins of Pompeii and Herculaneum,
Yeah.
the sightings people reported, the shadows that seemed to be fleeting through the towns around the volcano, what he wrote to Tacitus, the historian, about what he saw when the volcano erupted was this. Now came the dust, though still thinly. I look back. A dense cloud looms behind us, following us like a flood poured across the land. We had scarcely sat down when a darkness came that was not like a moonless or cloudy night, but more like the black of closed and unlighted rooms. You could hear women lamenting, children crying, men shouting. Some were calling for parents, others for children or spouses. They could only recognize them by their voices. Some bemoaned their own lot, other that of their near and dear. There were some so afraid of death that they prayed for death. Many raised their hands to the gods, and even more believed that there were no gods any longer, and that this was one last, unending night of the world. It grew lighter, though that seemed not a return of day, but a sign that the fire was approaching. The fire itself actually stopped some distance away, but darkness and ashes came again, a great weight of them. We stood up and shook the ash off again and again, otherwise we would have been covered with it and crushed by the weight. I might boast that no groan escaped me in such perils, no cowardly word, but that I believed that I was perishing with the world, and the world with me, which was a great consolation for death. Pliny the Younger, pretty beautiful stuff.
He's a poet.
Yeah.
And what a thing to witness.
Yeah, he saw that.
Yeah.
And now we know what he also saw, but never reported. And I know that
we do have
there are chances that I guess another manuscript can be recovered.
Yeah.
Showing this vision. And we actually do, I think, have an image of what that vision was.
Found something that might resemble what this description could be. This could be the very vision that he saw in that starry sky that night, in between all the smoke plumes and gusts of molten lava.
This is the lion-headed mystical figure that's been found in association with the Mithra cult in various sites. It's painted, it's sculpted, and we don't know what it means. There are multiple suggestions of its origins, Persian, Indian, and its meaning. And it's sometimes called the Kosmokrator, the ruler of the universe. And also its fierce look has been attributed to it being a representation of time as the all-devourer. And I think this is actually the form that was first sketched by Pliny the Younger when he saw it over that volcano, and which is what gave rise, because it was, of course, circled among people in the Mithras cult. And as we know now, Plinius the Younger was a member of the Mithras cult and basically started the promotion of this image, which led to all these depictions that we find today. So we still don't know what it means. We just know that this is what was conjured up in AD 79 when Vesuvius blew up and buried Pompeii and Herculaneum.
So there you have it. Actual, true evidence of apparitions appearing on the night sky.
So this is how our story ends.
Yeah. Wonderful.
Yeah, this was great. Great
really,
fun.
Really great fun. This time it took us 2 hours to actually get to start playing the game.
Yeah.
Before, but that was great.
And then it only took us 2 hours to play it.
Yeah, no, it's a great game. A lot of fun. How much do they? How many people should you be to play this game?
You can be up to 5 people, and I think.
Okay.
I mean, full disclosure here, as I said in the beginning, we're hacking the game a little bit by playing it as sort of a collaborative. It is a collaborative storytelling game, but we didn't like change roles between us, and we didn't follow strictly how every card is a single scene, and because I think if you are a group of people, 4 or 5 people, and play this game and have the roles switching between you, so everyone has a narrator scene, everyone has a witness scene, everyone has whisperer. I think
so we co-created everything instead of sort of challenging each other.
But I think being only 2, it might have been a little artificial. So I think this is a game that you can play like we just did, which worked fine. Because you get a lot of input on how to create story. There are even cards that will help you even structure your story more than we did. And if you are a group and you start distributing these storytelling roles between you, I also think that can be a really powerful experience.
Jeden says speeches by the ending. The image of children drowning in lava will stick forever.
We are sorry about that, or
I think you have yourself to blame, Jeden, because you were the one who introduced the idea of a death cult army of children.
Oh, that was Jeden who came up with the cult of dead children,
So I don't know what you expected.
I don't know if this was what you meant, but if not, scroll back 2 hours and try again.
Whoops.
Slip of the tongue. So no, I think this is like so many storytelling games out there, has a lot of potential to help people structure stories, because in these story games the most challenging things is if you're not used to telling stories, or it might be difficult, you might need some help in setting the scene, who is the main character, where are we trying to move, and I think this game has a lot of tools for that.
Does it also have beats, like saying you're entering in now into like a second act or third act? Or...
It does have beats, in the sense it has 3 acts. So basically it has, the first beats are all the beats where Umbricius was going around searching for his son and not really being sure what was real and what was not. The second beat is when he really starts believing it, which was after the meeting in the Mithraeum in our case, when he went back to Fortunata and raved all night. And that was the point where we I kind of like that we tried to change the perspective to bring Fortunata into the story, because we needed someone to hold things together, because it seemed impossible that he would be able to plot anything at this point.
And also we needed some kind of a witness, someone who's actually not crazy. To realize that this is happening.
Yes. Also for us as readers or listeners or whatever. That's true. I think that's a good point. And then the final beat of the story is always a climax scene where you reveal the horror. And of course, for us, this was the big ritual inside the volcano.
I think every story needs a climax scene where you drown children in lava.
It's
that's how the storytelling 101, guys. Come on.
It's at least it's how this one went. And of course, as I said at the beginning, there's a lot of generic cards, so where you can just choose your own setting and it'll help you create whatever story you want to create. And then there are these scripted settings. So the cards that we were drawing here were actually a mix of the generic cards and then the story cards.
Oh, okay.
So that's why, for example, a card like the Secret Cult was a scripted card for our story, whereas other cards like, I don't know, Evil Omens or something were probably just generic cards from the set.
Okay, that makes a little bit more sense.
So you mix and match as you please, and that's why some cards perhaps felt more linked to the story than others. But the others are just there to inspire you. And I think I also like that we stopped reading out the cards, because the idea is that each player sits with a hand of cards, and they read them silently, and then they only disclose the idea that they have to the others. So because it gets kind of confusing if you run through this whole catalog of ideas.
I think that sounds smart as well. I think the way we played it was designed perhaps better for streaming and for this scenario that we have here. Jeden says, in the game, do you normally shift picking cards, or do you always debate together? No, apparently you
everyone has their own hand of cards, but the roles shift. So, for example, in the first scene, I would be the narrator of the scene, and you would be the main character in the scene. You would play Umbricius, so we would kind of role play it, and you would say what Umbricius was doing, and I would control the narrative and then give you feedback on what you said. And then you can have up to 3 whisperers, who are people who can basically, if they have a good idea, they can interject it, which is, I think, a really neat feature, because right now we were using you guys in chat to be the whisperers in a sense, that sometimes when you tell, you kind of need that curveball. Because you very quickly get tunnel vision and you focus on one thing. So, for example, just to give really an example of what just happened, here at the end, when Fortunata was running towards Umbricius, when Porcius, his son, was running towards him, I had basically envisioned him embracing his son, who would just run right into him, and like a American football player, just run with him straight into the lava. But you changed it to having Porcius just push Umbricius aside and jumping into the lava, which was great because it helped us reintroducing Fortunata into the climax, because otherwise she would have just had the role of sitting there screaming on the ledge. But now she got to play an active role. So you really need to be challenged, so you don't end up just telling your story without changing pathways.
Another great detail about the ending is that you introduced the fact that the cult members started going from very stoic and like sort of being in control of this ritual. Everyone aside from Asinatus, what is it called? Acilius. All the sort of more common cult members, they panicked. And they completely sort of lost faith in their own ritual. And only what's his name? Acilius. Only Acilius was crazy enough to sort of go all the way.
But again, as we had seen already in the meeting in the Mithraeum, that he, by being sort of very... having like a silver tongue, he was able to convince a lot of people, perhaps against their instincts, that they should follow him. So I think what also happened was that a lot of the people who were there, who thought that, well, it's great, we're gonna make a statement, and suddenly they realized they're in the bowels of a volcano, they sailed through a mystic fog, and now they're sacrificing children in lava. That they just discover that, oh my God, we've been conned into doing this, and creates all this ruckus, and everyone panics. And I think that, Acilius was the only one, as you say, who were really crazy enough to go through this. I think he kind
of believed it himself, or he was so drunk on power that...
But I also think that...
He wanted to see it through.
I mean, we'll never know, because Plinius the Younger didn't write it, but if we are true in assessing that he only cut it from his writings to Tacitus because he didn't want to be, regarded as a madman, Acilius did actually succeed in his ritual in conjuring up this crazy Kosmokrator figure.
Absolutely, because we kind of triggered the whole volcano situation.
Yeah, and the volcano, it turns out, was a ritual, and if they had not performed that ritual, Pompeii would never have been buried in lava. And I don't know. Yeah, allegedly. Who knows? I mean, but certainly that whole Augustalia celebration, that was really crushed.
That's where it started to go downhill.
Yeah. So no, very interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things I'm also a little bit surprised of was how easy also by the strength of the cards. I thought the cards in the beginning were very good.
Yeah.
They really set the tone.
Yeah, I like like in the desperation games, you get sort of the lay of the land. You get introduced to the characters and so forth. That's nice.
But before we started, I was a little wary about how we gonna reenact Pompeii 79 CE without being specialists on Roman history. But I mean, we certainly didn't do that, but it felt completely unproblematic, the setting. It was, I mean, of course, we just also did our own pulp horror story on it, but it was quite easy.
It didn't require any specialist knowledge, I don't think.
No, and we got those bits and pieces about the Mithras cult from the cards. So yeah, all in all, a quite successful scenario.
So the game is called
Lovecraftesque.
And this particular scenario is called
Echoes of Vulcan.
Great. So you can find that on, what is it called?
Black Amarda Games.
Black Amarda Games, yeah. So check it out, and there are other types of scenarios that we haven't tried, but probably be a lot of fun if you have some storytelling.
And I can already say now that there are scenarios set in the future, in modern day, during World War II. There are all sorts of different settings. So
yeah, cool. But it's definitely relax with your friends game.
Yeah.
So now you had a sort of would love to play it. Jen says Jen. Yes, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it.
That's kind of it.
So thank you for following along, and for all your suggestions. We had a really super happy. We had a very active chat today.
Yeah, it was nice,
and it was really great to have all these suggestions. So we feel more like we're telling a story together with you guys.
Even though you are deeply twisted, some of you guys.
We must say, yeah.
Because me and Jacob was very happy to have.
We were trying to keep this like a happy, simple love story.
Yes.
And then suddenly
you
kids are drowning in lava.
You introduced death cults, an army of undead children, and I don't know what.
No.
Thank you, Sticken. Thank you, Yetin. And thank you all other chatters and hang-arounds. And I guess there's only one thing left to say, and that is...
Stop winning.
Start losing.
And stay hopeless. Cheers.
See you guys.